Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. Today is Sunday, March 30th. Welcome in. We got a busy show today, but do me a favor. I just noticed we're getting there, almost to 100K. So go on, if you've watched the show even one time, jump on board and hit subscribe for me, please. All right. On today's show, we got some SEC flavor. We're going to talk Tennessee, and we're going to talk the Florida Gators. Then we got something cool here. We're going to react to a Connor Stalions on 3 interview. Yes, last week on Friday, Connor Stalions was in this studio right here, well, up against that wall, with J.D. Piquel, and he hit on some recruiting topics, namely Bryce Underwood's recruitment. I want to react to a couple clips from that interview. Also, we're going to talk some Nebraska Cornhusker recruiting, but first, let's talk about it. The biggest developments in the recruiting world from over the weekend. I got a few I want to hit on. You guys let me know if I'm missing out on any, but we're going to start with the Longhorns. Texas is filling needs. They landed a big commitment over the weekend, got things going on the recruiting trail. And I do mean big. 6'3", 330 pounds from Spring, Texas. I'm talking Nicholas Robertson. He made his commitment to the Horns over the weekend, and Texas now has the number 11 ranked class in the country. Remember, the Longhorns finished number 1 overall last year, and this time last year, they were not at number 11. If I recall, I think they were at 16, 18, something like this. So Texas is marching up the recruiting rankings, but they're not done. Of course, on the offensive line, very important. We talk a lot about that on this channel. We had Justin Wells from Inside Texas on Thursday, and he was talking about the importance of offensive line recruiting. Of course, there's 2 big names still floating out there. Offensive tackles, John Turntine and Felix Ojo. I like where Texas sits for both of them right now. Neither of them are in a position to make a decision anytime soon, but the addition of Nicholas Robertson, he's going to fit more as a interior offensive lineman in this group, while Turntine and Ojo are more typical offensive tackles. So this is a really important commitment, gets things going. Also a big weekend. Number 2 running back in America, Xavier Crowell, was on campus. We'll talk more about Texas as the week goes on. Let's head to Knoxville, where Tennessee is trending for the number 1 athlete in America. Predictions are rolling in. Tennessee at nearly 98% on the recruiting prediction machine for in-state standout Joel Wyatt, and he was back in Knoxville this weekend. He didn't commit, but I do like the fact that he was back in Knoxville, and this thing is really trending in the Vols' direction. They also had on campus Xavier Griffin, who's from the state of Georgia, made an early commitment to USC, and unlike last year's Georgia commitments of Julian Lewis, Isaiah Gibson, Justice Terry, I have reason to believe Xavier Griffin is solidly committed to USC, but that trip to Knoxville this weekend, it's given off big Jaden Perlotti vibes. Remember that crazy recruitment from last year. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on this one, but Xavier Griffin, an elite linebacker from the state of Georgia, on campus in Knoxville. 5-star edge visits Ohio State. Who are we talking about? Carter Meadows. We've talked a lot about the 5-star edge prospect on this channel. He said, quote, "It's evident they have a championship DNA." Well, they do. They are the national defending champions. And after coming off trips to Penn State, Notre Dame, Michigan, it looks like this is shaping up to be one of these Big Ten battles. Well, Notre Dame's in there. They're not Big Ten, but they are battling right now for Carter Meadows. I kind of like where all the schools sit. I think it's early for him, but I think it was vital for Ohio State to get him on campus this weekend. All right, 5-star offensive tackle, cuts his list of schools. Felix Ojo, out of the state of Texas, one of the best offensive tackles in America. Chopped down his list of schools down to a top 5. We have Ole Miss, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, and Oklahoma. Remember Oklahoma going into the state of Texas last year, pulling out one of the best. Will they do it again this year with Felix Ojo? You know, I don't know. Right now, I kind of like where the Longhorns sit in all of this. I think Michigan heavily involved, Ohio State also heavily involved. We'll just have to wait and see. You guys let me know. Who do you think leads for Felix Ojo right now? All right, another major development, this one in the state of California. Ryder Lyons was on campus at USC this weekend, a week after we just spoke about Ryder Lyons being Michigan's top target. We confirmed that with EJ Holland of the Wolverine. He said, indeed, Rider Lyons is the top target on the board right now for Michigan. Well, we thought it was trending in that direction until I saw him show up in Los Angeles this weekend. Rider Lyons on campus. Lincoln Riley making a push to keep Lyons, the 5-star quarterback, home. We'll see what happens. Rider Lyons has more visits set. I don't think he's going to make a decision. I would wait. I would think a summer decision is coming. What do you guys think for Rider Lyons? Let me know in the comments section below. Let's talk some Tennessee recruiting because the Volunteers, they're trending for the number 1 athlete in America, Joel Wyatt, and he was back in Knoxville this weekend. Got Matt Ray here from VolQuest. Matt, what's the deal with Joel Wyatt? Predictions rolling in. Tennessee at nearly 98% on the recruiting prediction machine. Was there a sense that maybe Tennessee could close it out this weekend?
Yeah, Josh, I mean, and catching up with Joel Wyatt, obviously there's a certain comfort level in Knoxville. Now, he did kind of say toward the end of the interview that Tennessee's in the top 2 for him right now. He's not comfortable saying who the second school in the mix is, but he's working to finalize some official visit dates. And, it's very clear, though, regardless of all that, all the official visits going on, that Tennessee's continued to do a really nice job of recruiting him, recruiting his family. He had family with him again on this visit. This is his second time back in Knoxville in this calendar year already. He was here at the end of January, back here at the end of March. Tennessee will look to get him back again potentially over the spring before official visits. So Tennessee just continues to do a really nice job of recruiting him. And he did say, that the message from the Tennessee staff has kind of been, what are you waiting on? Let's get in here. Let's start recruiting some guys. And, we'll see how appealing that is to him as he goes home. He's been on the road in the spring. He's got some things to think about. He's got some official visits he says that he still has to iron out. So, how far does he want to take this process? It's very clear that Tennessee's, in a very good spot for him coming out of the spring. And that's all because of the relationship he and his family have with the Tennessee staff.
He didn't want to say who that second team is. Who do you think it is?
I think that's a very interesting. I think that's a very interesting with him because he's been to Vanderbilt a lot, and he was there just before coming out to Tennessee. And I'm not ready to say that it's Vanderbilt, but I do think Vanderbilt is very much in the mix. The other school that has an official visit date locked in place already is LSU, and right now, obviously, you can't count the Tigers out of any recruitment. Georgia and North Carolina are 2 other programs that are set to get an official visit, but he doesn't have a date locked in with them. So right now, I would say probably battling to be in that top 2 with Tennessee is Vanderbilt or LSU. But I do think Vanderbilt's kind of real. I mean, I think when you look at the list and you look at North Carolina with the new staff there with Bill Belichick, and then obviously Kirby Smart and the track record that his staff has there in Georgia and LSU, when you see Vanderbilt grouped in, you might just think, oh, that's a courtesy deal. I don't think it is. I think Vanderbilt is very real in the mix for Joel Wyatt, and I think they've recruited him hard, and I think he's continuing to take a deep look at them. So I think Vanderbilt and LSU are the 2 teams probably that are Tennessee's primary competition at this point.
All right, another really intriguing name that was on campus is USC commitment Xavier Griffin, ranked as the number 2 rated linebacker in America. We know that Tennessee was involved with a bunch of these Georgia linebackers last cycle. How are they sitting with Griffin? Do you think he's a legitimate flip target at this point?
It's Austin and I were talking about this yesterday as things kind of wrapped up, and I think for me with Tennessee and Xavier Griffin, it's where we were at this point last year with Jaden Perlotti. Now, obviously, Jaden Perlotti flipped to USC before ending up flipping back to Tennessee, away from Georgia. Yeah. But I think you've got to continue getting him to campus. Xavier Griffin was quietly up in Knoxville in November. He's been pretty open that he's going to continue to take visits. He's back in Knoxville this spring. So now you've got a track record of getting him here. You have to keep getting him back to campus, and you've got to get an official visit at some point down the line to be able to allow him to learn more about the program, give him that in-depth look where you can, make him a true potential flip target. But from everything I've gathered, it's a visit that went very well. He had, family members along on the visit with him, some of their first time seeing Knoxville. I think the football fit has always lined up with him at Tennessee, but I think it lines up with him at a lot of places. And the more, that I continue to check around and talk to people that are, in the know in this recruitment, he's very open in the fact that he is not concerned over distance. He's not
Mm-hmm.
concerned about leaving Gainesville, Georgia, and going out to the West Coast. He committed to USC. It wasn't, one of those deals where he felt pressured into committing to USC. He comfortably committed to USC, and Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, all these other programs are going to continue vying to keep him in the Southeast. But there's work to do there, and I think that can
Yeah.
be said for all of those programs, and I think it can be said for Tennessee. So I think for me, you just got to keep getting him back to campus. But from everything I've gathered, Saturday's visit went very well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is one that's not going to be over until the very end, and this is kind of just the beginning. But it was key to get him on campus if Tennessee is going to be a threat moving forward. Speaking of being a threat moving forward, intriguing edge position name, Tristan Givens here. He's out of Georgia as well, Carver, Georgia. And he was on campus this weekend. He's a top 100 prospect, top 10 at his position. Where does Tennessee stand with him? Inside Scoop listeners, I got to tell you about a company that makes this show possible. It's Rhoback Activewear. The only way to describe Rhoback is best fit, best feel. And for those who are not familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rhoback has released so many items within their new licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs, clean hoodie, and quarter zip designs from some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Rhoback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They are both super comfortable. They have an elastic waistband and a great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for everyday movement. Rhoback also has been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. So use code JOSH on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off all new custom orders through the end of this week. Let's spell it out for you. RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with promo code JOSH.
Yeah, he's a guy that Tennessee's recruited hard for some time now. He's hit it off with new outside linebackers coach LaVorn Harbin, well into the early days of this recruitment, and that has just continued to carry over. And he said yesterday that relationship has continued to build. He feels like Tennessee's making him a priority. He had family along with him on the visit. Really enjoyed what he saw on the practice field from Tennessee. He was impressed when he was here in November for the Kentucky game and got to see what James Pierce and the Tennessee edge rushers, that Leo position, did. He got a deeper look at that on Saturday, and the message has been clear that they can use him in a way that truly fits what he does well as a player, and he's starting to see more and more of that. Tennessee's done a really nice job of recruiting him over the winter and into the spring as his recruitment continues to surge. He's fixing to be off the road for a little bit. He will see Florida State to kind of close out his spring tour of visits here and then start focusing on official visits. And to me right now, it feels like those two programs are the two that have maybe created a little bit of separation coming out of the winter as they're working hard to recruit Tristan Givens at that edge position. And, I think for me, that one's going to be one that comes down to official visits.
Yeah. It seems like Tennessee kind of has it dialed in right now at the edge position. Is this board, how big of a priority is the edge position? And is the board loaded right now for Tennessee?
It certainly feels like it's very loaded at that position. I think what you'll see is you'll have some guys that can grow into a more traditional defensive end, play with their hand in the dirt a little bit more. But, when you just start looking at guys that can play edge or play, out at the end of the, line of scrimmage, there's so many guys. I mean, you'll see Dre Quinn back on campus next weekend, another four-star edge guy. You had Tristan Givens here. Mikael Blade quietly came to town. He's a guy that would probably, grow into a defensive end, but he's working to get an official visit scheduled after, seeing Tennessee yesterday. That was not something that was in the works before. There's just so many guys at that edge position this time, and they already have C.J. Edwards committed They're working, on several other guys. I mean, Carter Meadows. They're not going to quit recruiting Rodney Dunham. He's a priority for them. There's just so many names that they're involved with in this cycle, and it's just one of those years where that position is very heavy. I feel like from top to bottom, there's some guys that maybe even are a little lower rated right now that have a ton of upside that Tennessee views pretty highly.
All right, Tennessee fans, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, and also let us know, is Xavier Griffin going to be the next big flip at the linebacker position? Talk to us, comment section below. It's an exciting time to be a Florida Gator fan between hoops and spring football and recruiting. Gators just got it going on. We're with Corey Bender here of Gators Online. Corey, before we talk about a little recruiting, who's been standing out at spring camp? What's the word out of Gainesville?
Yeah, I think one guy we can mention just because he was a hot name recruiting was former five-star quarterback Cormani McClain. A lot of DBs have been to Florida's campus over the last couple of weeks, a lot of top guys. And right now, obviously, people are dialed in recruiting, but I think they're also probably more dialed into like practice observations. How's the team looking? So I've been asking these kids who's standing out. And Cormani's one of the main guys that's always consistently mentioned. He's put on a good amount of mass since the end of last year. Really filled out. I think cornerback. They lost a few guys. It's obviously a group that's banged up as well. So competition's wide open, but I think Cormani has a good chance to start this year. It's pretty wide open. He's impressing in camp, playing with a lot more confidence, obviously knows the playbook a little bit better. And, Florida obviously has a whole new secondary staff. So, it's been challenging in that regard for a lot of these guys who are kind of learning Jerron Wilson, his new coaching style. But a lot of guys, I know in the first day of spring practice, we're only allowed to go see 15 minutes of it, but we were told Cormani had an interception, in the scrimmage as far as when they're practicing. They have another scrimmage next Saturday, so that'll be another big opportunity for him to step up. So I think he's one you definitely have to mention in a wide open, race at cornerback right now. Tyreek Sapp, another guy that's a familiar name to most people that cover recruiting. He's obviously entering his last year. He's one of the best sack edge rushers in the SEC last year. He decided to come back when he could have went pro. One of the guys that I think could really have a big year and really improve his draft stock, almost had 10 sacks last year. So he's one, when you look at the defense, one of the natural leaders, looks the part. He looks like an NFL guy with the way his frame's filled out. So you look at those two guys on defense, and I think another one too will stay on defense is Aaron Childs. He's a linebacker, 6'3", 235 pounds. He's a big kid. Even when he came out of high school as an Under Armour All-American, he was one of those guys standing amongst his peers. It's like, man, this guy already looks like he's been in college for a few years. Now at Florida, he's really coming into his own. Looks like an NFL-type player. He's a really big linebacker. I think he's going to have a big year. And I think overall, too, I know people want the skill positions and stuff like that, but Florida's offensive line as a whole has been really impressive. Obviously, Jake Slaughter, All-American first-team center. He comes back where a lot of people thought he could have went pro. Bryce Lovett's another guy, a former three-star kid out of Rockford, Florida, who's really getting high reviews, will probably be a starter this year. But I think it'll be Billy Napier's best offensive line group since he's been in Gainesville. All but one starter returns, and then some other guys like Fletcher Westfall, a former four-star guy, 6'8", who's battling for for the right tackle spot. So I think overall, when you look at offense, experience offensive line comes back. DJ Lagway isn't practicing right now. They're being kind of safe with him ahead of summer camp, so that way nothing gets happened. No, he's had some minor injuries, so they want to be careful with. And when you kind of mix him with the O-line and Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown, some younger guys that are impressing, and some other upperclassmen, I think there's a lot of optimism when it comes to Florida's offense. It's a veteran group, but with guys like Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown, you have some star power that's just coming into Gainesville in year one.
Yeah, all that's exciting to hear, especially the Cormani talk, because we cover him so much here on this channel, from his recruitment to the transfer out of Colorado. Now we're kind of following maybe potentially his redemption arc here at Florida and potentially battling for a starting spot. So it's always fun to hear about Cormani and the others that are standing out. Let's talk a little recruiting, though. Florida Gators have a shot at a 5-star offensive tackle. No, it's not Emmanuel Iheanacho. He made his cut down to 7. Gators did not make it, but Felix Ojo out of Texas, he's a big-time offensive tackle, and he'll be on campus in the coming weeks. What's going to be key to staying in this recruitment for the Gators?
Honestly, just getting the campus where it starts with, because he's told me before in recent weeks that Florida has done one of the better jobs recruiting him. They've been relentless with him, making sure he knows, hey, you're a top priority, one of the top guys on their board, regardless of position. Jonathan DeCoster, the co-offensive line coach, he's been one of the main guys when it comes to Florida's offensive line recruiting. Rob Sale's more the developer guy. He obviously recruits too, but DeCoster's played a key role with Florida being in the mix for a lot of these guys. So I think overall, getting Felix over the campus, it'll be for the orange and blue game on April 12th. When it comes to game day environments, it's kind of hard to kind of show everything because obviously some kids get to the stadium, they watch the game, and then they leave. But from what I've heard is, the kid's going to get there fairly early so that way you can see campus, spend time with the staff, and knowing what type of prospect he is, especially with Emmanuel not having Florida in this top group, I think they're going to turn up the heat even more and really make sure they show a lot of attention to him while he's in town. So I think if all goes well there, he's kind of said, hey, Florida could get an OV from me. I think it's kind of a wait and see. Florida's done a good job from afar without even getting a visit. And they were able to secure a visit on a busy day where he kind of could have went to a bunch of different schools for the April 12th day, but he's choosing Florida. So I think that says something. So if all goes well, Florida will get an OV, but it starts with that first strong impression, and Florida will get that roughly 2 weeks from now.
All right, stick it on this O-line board. Another one, Joel Irvin. He's out of Fort Myers, and he committed to Miami. He goes 6'6", 280 pounds. I know he's a 3-star recruit, but all 3 in-state teams were battling before this commitment to Miami. Knowing how in-state recruiting goes within the borders of Florida, do you have reason to believe this recruitment might not be over?
Yeah, I don't think so, man, because I talked to him in depth about 2-3 days ago, and he's like, I don't even know when I'm going to make a decision yet. He's like, it'll probably just be a gut feeling, which it showed it was. Miami was high in his list. He decommitted from Louisville right after a Miami visit, but he also went to Florida State before that, and then he went to Florida that same week. And he told me, hey, when my next decision, I'm probably going to stay in the state of Florida. It's just a different feeling for me. But Florida, I know from what I've been told, this is a guy Billy Napier himself really likes. He's another tower at the tackle position. Really, there's upside. He has ways to go in terms of development, but he definitely looks the part. He's supposed to come back as of now for April 12th as well for the spring game, and he also has an OV set for the summer. And like you said, Josh, it's only March. I'd be shocked if he doesn't take several OVs. And even before when he committed to Louisville, he committed to Louisville and then he decommitted about 3 weeks later. Now he's committed to Miami. So. Obviously that pledge to the Hurricanes is very strong, but I know Florida State, Kentucky, some out-of-state schools are going to be pushing hard for him as well. He did have a trip to USC out in Los Angeles scheduled as well. I don't know if he's going to take that, but I think it's one of those kids that he's obviously happy with where he's at. He loves Miami, but Florida will keep chipping away, and I think they'll definitely get him back on campus at some point.
All right, want to hit on one more flip target with you before we let you go. C.J. Braunow. He's committed to Nebraska, but now he is a top 20 player at his position. He's a DB. He's from Winter Gardens, Florida. He goes 6'1", 175. Maybe somebody that slipped through the cracks of the in-state teams, but now it sounds like the Gators are kind of circling back on CJ. What are you hearing here?
Yeah, no, he's one of those kids, man. 10.3 100 meter, state champion, 100 meter, good size. I think last year he had 6 interceptions, 3 for pick 6. So he slipped through the cracks as far as recruiting, but in recent weeks, I should say, Oregon, Florida, schools like that have all offered. So he's been blowing up. But from what I've known, he's told me, Penn State, Florida State, those are the 3 schools with the best shot at maybe changing his mind. That Nebraska staff, they got in on him early. Those relationships are strong. So it's going to be hard flipping him, but for sure after the last visit to Florida this past week, he said he was blown away. I know that obviously there's an appeal of staying closer to home. Jerron Wilson, the new secondary coach, they're obviously clicking really well. Billy Napier himself went on his way and said, hey, you're a priority. You're a guy that we want in the class. We love your high character, your leadership. So that Florida visit couldn't have went any better. And he actually scheduled his OV before he even got to campus for that spring visit. So I think that says a lot where, he kind of went into that spring visit thinking, hey, I know I'm going to like this school. Let's go ahead and lock that visit in. But I think right now Florida and Penn State probably had the best shot at changing his mind. Florida State right behind them. And it's going to be an interesting battle. You can tell this kid has a decision on his hands. He's kind of looking at all different schools and probably has to make another decision whether he's going to stay put or potentially make a flip. But, this summer is going to be key for him. He has all those OVs set for June, the 3 schools I mentioned, along with Nebraska. And I think you're looking at a guy that, with his height and speed and obviously his stardom in track and field, a guy that can probably rise in the rankings even more. So definitely a key guy, especially in the state of Florida, and a guy we'll probably be hearing quite a bit about in the coming months.
All right, Gator fans, if you're still on here, make sure you are subscribed to the On3 Recruits channel. Corey Bender with Gators Online. Exciting time to be around the site for Gator fans. Appreciate you stopping by. Let's talk a little Michigan recruiting. I've been fascinated by the Bryce Underwood recruitment. Even when he was committed to LSU, we had him in studio. We talked to him. He was really interesting to talk about. And then, of course, the big flip. 300 days after his commitment from LSU, he makes a decision to flip his commitment to Michigan. Of course, there's a couple players in this, Sharon Moore, obviously one of the biggest, but you had Dave Portnoy, you had Larry Ellison. You also have Connor Stallions in the role that he played, and he played some sort of role. And this week, on Friday, he was in studio here at On3 with JD Piquel. You guys know JD. He's on the On3 Sports channel. And we're going to take a look at a clip. They actually talk about the Bryce Underwood scenario and kind of Connor Stallion's role in it. So let's watch this clip.
Did Bryce give you a heads up like,
no,
hey, this is about to? No, okay.
Nope.
So what was the conversation?
Elijah
like
Dotson did.
when he? Okay. So
for Elijah,
okay, gotcha.
because Elijah told me he was gonna flip to Michigan.
Mm-hmm. When Bryce did tell you he was going to Michigan, or when you found
Bryce
out the news.
committed after Elijah.
So when you find out, are you like hitting him a text, him a quick call? Like what was that first interaction
I'm
like
sure his phone was completely blown up. But that weekend, so he committed. I don't even remember what day it was, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there. He commits to Michigan, and it's funny. I'm still upset about our loss in the playoffs to Catholic Central, a great program. And their Catholic Central is very elite with weight room and their defense and the front seven. And Belleville, unfortunately, was just behind in that. So it's like, well, it's going to be tough to run the ball. So it of course, as the OC or whatever, I'm still like, man, I should have done this, should have done that. And I'm
replaying it in your head.
Sure he feels the same way. But, it's funny from Michigan's perspective. It could have been a blessing in disguise because he could not have gone to the Northwestern game that week, that next weekend, had we won, because we would have played at the same time. Now, I don't think he would have committed or not based on if he could have gone to a Michigan Northwestern game. But I thought it was cool for him to be able to commit and then 2-3 days later go to that game. I think I hit his dad up because I'm sure his phone was getting blown. His dad was a coach on the team at Belleville.
Got it. Okay.
His dad was a running backs coach, so I was pretty close with his dad. So I hit him up like, hey man, if you guys are going to be around, have any free time, let me know. And so we were at this big tailgate, and a couple of the other coaches on the staff were at Belleville. Were at the tailgate, and so they I guess they took a 10-minute, 15-minute detour. Said, hey, we got somewhere to be, and they came by, swung by, and said hi. And
snap a quick pic, break the internet really quick, and then just see yourself trending.
Yeah.
How many texts did you get after that? Because I think the perception for people that saw that, they were like, all right, if I'm a Michigan fan and I am believing that Connor Stallions brought us home a natty, now he brings us the #1 recruit in America, it's like, dog, give this guy the key to the city right now. Was your text just going crazy when that all happens?
Yeah. I mean, the picture alone, it's just a funny, well-timed picture of Bryce and me at the tailgate. People are always going to think what they want. It's the same thing with the conspiracies originally with me and the sign stealing stuff. People just want, a good friend of mine is people want a sexy story, but the unfortunate truth is sometimes the truth is not sexy.
Sure,
it's just, it is what it is, right?
Sure.
Bryce Underwood is not committing to Michigan because his 5th offensive coordinator behind the scenes was convincing him to commit to Michigan. In fact, I actually had a great relationship with the coach at LSU, Joe Sloan, recruiting him. And in my opinion, I had a 3-hour conversation with Joe, and I was like, oh, well, I don't think Bryce is going to flip to Michigan. Coach Sloan's pretty awesome.
So interesting to see Connor Stallion sit down with JD, say he had no heads up, and it sounds like he's saying he didn't play a big role. But if you listen to the internet, especially right after, it sounded like Connor Stallions was one of the main reasons behind this. But what do you guys think? I kind of believe Connor Stallions, because in this day and age of college football where you have his parents involved, like he said his dad coached with the team. So, yeah, he had a close relationship with Connor Stallions. But hold on. Do you really think that Connor Stallions could influence Bryce Underwood, who has a great head on his shoulders himself, has his family involved, has an agent involved, has Larry Ellison and Dave Portnoy calling him? I just think that it's interesting to hear Connor Stallion's perspective, but I don't think Connor deserves the attribution that the internet's giving him for landing Bryce Underwood. Now, I think this clip was cool to kind of hear the behind the scenes of the tailgate photo pick, and even Connor understanding how epic that picture was for the internet. Love that picture. When I saw it, my jaw dropped. I was like, is this Photoshop? Is this AI? I couldn't believe it, but even Connor understood what the internet was saying. So I don't think that Connor Stallions had a huge role in Bryce flipping, but I think he'll always be tied to the story. Let's watch a little bit more of Connor Stallions and JD Piquel.
You're on staff at Bryce Underwood's high school,
Yep.
and then he flips, and then conveniently there's a picture of y'all together at a Michigan tailgate. Like, just walk us through from start to finish that story of you getting on staff at Bryce Underwood's high school.
Yeah, so a couple coaches that I know pretty well that have significant Belleville ties. When our regular season ended at Mumford and we're going to the playoffs and Belleville had just lost their last regular season game, it was like, hey, we want you to go in, help out, help with the offense, and, get these boys right. So I get there. My first time meeting Bryce was the Sunday after the Michigan State game. And, right away, the first thing I told him was, look, because, obviously it's kind of funny. We're both kind of starstruck because he's like, I just watched your documentary. And I'm like, oh, you're Bryce Underwood. And, so I told him, I said, look, obviously, where I would want you to play. I'm not here to talk about that. Like this, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that I love Michigan and would love to see it at Michigan. I'm here to just help you win, help you grow from a football standpoint and so on. And that first day, we were there for like 12 hours talking ball.
Wow.
The guy's obsessed with football. We got along very, very well. We still have a good relationship just because of football.
Yeah.
Like he would call me every night watching film, like asking me what I think the boundary safety is trying to do on this play and that play. And he'd answer his own question 99% of the time. And just kind of a sounding board for him. But, his work ethic and his knowledge of football is what obviously, you can't just tell by looking at him. Mm-hmm. You can watch him throw the ball. You can look at him. Oh yeah, he's got the physical tools. He's got everything there on film. What sets him apart, and this is why I think he's so confident when he goes on the Rich Eisen show or whatever, and he doesn't shy away, right? Like anyone in his position or in his camp, like a family member or a friend or a coach or whoever, might kind of hesitate to be like, I don't want to talk about him because the expectation or whatever. Well, clearly, the expectation that doesn't faze him, right? He's talking about what he expects out of himself, and the reason why he's so confident in himself has to be because of his work ethic and the grind. Like, I'm 100% confident, and I can say this knowing, I was at Schembechler Hall for multiple years, and there's like maybe 2 or 3 other people who are in there as early and as late, as you're in there. Like Coach Moore being one of them, Nick Roselio, shout out to him. He's offensive line GA. He's a grinder. He's there all the time. Bryce is like that.
All right. So there you have it. That's JD Piquel with Connor Stallions. And what do you guys think? Was Connor Stallions an integral part of getting Bryce Underwood to Michigan, or Was he just does he just have a really interesting perspective and he was there alongside for the process, but maybe not a huge factor? I don't know. The internet made it sound like Connor Stallions had a big hand in getting Bryce Underwood to Michigan. But now that we had Connor Stallions in studio, pretty cool that he was here at On3 with JD Piquel. I'll link the full interview. I think he did about an hour here. So he hit a lot of Michigan topics. So I will put that link in the description of his interview with JD. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Does Connor Stallions get too much credit? Not enough? Or was he just a bystander for the whole thing? Let me know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Nebraska football. I want to know about a former 5-star recruit that's going to break out this season. Also, a 3-star on the roster that's going to outplay his former high school ranking. And for this video, I got On3 National Scout Cody Belair. Cody, who is your Nebraska 5-star breakout player?
Yeah, Josh, I think Nebraska fans are already looking forward to next season, and something that always helps fans build some buzz around the program and get the juices flowing is bringing in a shiny new toy into the locker room. And for this Nebraska defense, that would have to be former 5-star defensive end Williams Nwaneri, who transferred in from Mizzou. Now, Josh, I don't know how much you've played the latest college football video game, but Williams Nwaneri is exactly the type of road to glory or create a player that you would build in a video game, right? He's all of 6'6", 260 pounds with over 36.25-inch arms and a 7-foot wingspan, which would have landed him in the top 5 for longest arms as an edge defender at the NFL Combine ever. And he's such a fluid athlete for that size too, being able to bend and chase down ball carriers from the backside. So the biggest thing for him is getting more comfortable at the point of attack and becoming more dominant as a run defender. If he can add run support to his game and continue developing as a pass rusher, this former 5-star is going to turn into a total freak show for the Cornhuskers.
Yeah, what a whirlwind recruitment it's been for Williams Nwaneri over the last 2 years. Now he is a Nebraska Cornhusker. We'll see if he can break out this season. I think he will. Cody, before we get out of here, give me a 3-star on this roster that you think is going to outplay that high school ranking this year.
Yeah, this is a name that Nebraska fans are definitely familiar with, and I think are genuinely excited about next season because he officially made the position switch to tight end on the 2025 roster after starting at the position in the Pinstripe Bowl last year, and that is former industry 3-star quarterback Heinrich Harburg. He made the full-time switch to tight end this year, and Josh, this cat is a freaky athlete, running nearly 11 flat in the 100-meter and jumping over 6 feet in the long jump out of high school. And he put on a hell of a show, winning the team's dunk contest back in January. So the size and athleticism are absolutely there. And with Thomas Fadone and moving on to the NFL and Carter Nelson going through offseason hip surgery, there's definitely an opportunity for Harburg to get some serious looks next season.
Yeah, Nebraska fans got to be fired up about this roster. So talk to Cody and I. Tell us who you are most excited about on this football team for next year. Let us know. Comment section below.